Opening round for the AFL has finished. We had some exciting games and we had some crazy results. For this video today, we're going to be reviewing what was opening round. So, opening round started off with a bang. We had the Sydney Swans against Carlton, Charlie Curnow and Will Hayward against their former sides. And for the most part, this was a competitive game. Carlton absolutely jumped out of the blocks. You know, they got a really early lead. The Swans struggled. They kicked three behinds in the first quarter, and it looked like Carlton was going to run away with this. And Sydney, they looked sloppy. Their ball movement wasn't there. Carlton were destroying them through the midfield. Jagger Smith was getting his hands on the footy early, and it really looked like Carlton were a different side from 2025. And then half time came around, and Dean Cox's side, they must have got a rev up or something because that third quarter from the Swans was insane. I think it was third all time for most goals kicked in a quarter. It was absolute slaughtering from the Sydney Swans. Carlton had no answers, and I think from then on, it was game over. The Sydney Swans are looking absolutely dangerous this year. Their forward line attack is arguably one of the best, if not the best so far. Curnow, Amadi, McDonald, all three looked really good in that game. And I really think that with their midfield, they're going to be a premiership favourite. And for Carlton, back to the drawing board. They've got Richmond the week after, so we'll have to see how Carlton respond to this. The Swans, their next game's against Brisbane, so we'll have to see the real test up against the reigning premiers. And then on Friday night, my mob, the Geelong Cats, played the Gold Coast Suns. And this game, as a Geelong supporter, it was painful, but as a neutral, we just got to see what the Gold Coast Suns were made about. Christian Petrarca and Bailey Humphrey took the game by the scruff of the neck. The midfield battle was actually quite even. The Cats won the centre clearances and the stoppage clearances, but they just couldn't get any chain possessions going. And their back half was absolutely dreadful. They couldn't get any scores from their defensive half, and every time they would try and move the ball from defense, they would turn it over, and the Suns would just counterattack. I mean, 30 shots on goal is insane. They had over 100 points in the third quarter, and most teams are going to struggle to play the Suns up there, and it leaves a lot of question marks for the Cats, People were obviously concerned coming off of the big grand final loss to Brisbane. Was there going to be any changes? What was going to be different about this Geelong side? Obviously, no Cameron Stengel or Dangerfield obviously leaves a massive difference. But still, effort and skill is something that you can't coach. It's something that belongs to the players and something they have to figure out themselves. So you're going to have to hope that against Fremantle, the Cats bounce back. For the Suns, I mean, look, it's going to be an easy ride to finals for them if they're going to play footy like this. And they've got a couple easy games coming up. I think they've got a few bottom team sides like West Coast and Richmond coming up. So Gold Coast are really going to be looking to up their percentage, and they're going to be a hard team to beat this year. So full credit to the Gold Coast Suns for an absolutely amazing game on Friday night. And then to kick things off on Saturday, we had a really good game from GWS and Hawthorn. So as you guys obviously saw in the previous video, I tipped GWS. Reason being, their list, they just find guys from fucking anywhere. Like, genuinely, Harry Ralston and O'Halloran and Angwin, these guys were really good. And their defence really held up. Club debutant Jaden Laverty filling in the hole for Sam Taylor was really good. The Hawks really struggled in the first quarter. The Giants kind of blitzed away, and it was kind of like a one-sided game for the most part. But the Hawks battled back. They found ways to get goals against the grain. Gunston, I think, kicked 4, and they really tried to make this a contest. And they kind of brought it back to within a 2 to 3 goal game, and it just felt like the Giants just had an answer, and there wasn't really much the Hawks could do about it. Jai Newcomb, kind of like a one-man band in the midfield, tried to get his team across the line, But we had Clayton Oliver from GWS winding back the clock, leading the game with centre clearances. He kicked a goal, 27 disposals. It's what you'd want from a GWS supporter if you got Clayton Oliver from the D's. Like you were hoping to get this sort of Clayton Oliver, and for him to come out first game, fill that void that because Tom Green's a phenomenal footballer. So for him to leave that much room in the midfield, and Clayton Oliver to just come in there and just absolutely wind back the clock, you've got to be ecstatic. And for a footy neutral, you've got to love what you saw from Clayton Oliver. So well done to the Giants for their win against the Hawks. And then the surprise of the round, the Western Bulldogs beat the Brizzy Lions up at the Gabba. And this is an early contender for Match of the Year. Like, genuinely, one of the best games of footy. Like, that fourth quarter was absolutely electric. Um, it was just a battle from the get go. We had the old fella Dane Zorko, just everywhere. His positioning is off the charts. He snuck forward, kicked one from 50 on the run. After a lot of off-field troubles and stuff, Lockie Neal was outstanding. 39 disposals, absolutely led the front for the Lions. We had Ed Richards from the Bulldogs. That was just best on ground, in my opinion. Kicked 2 goals and had 30-odd disposals. Matthew Kennedy, once again, showing how much of a bargain recruit he was for the Bulldogs. Getting him from Carlton, he was phenomenal. Will Ashcroft doing what Ashcroft does. And then we obviously saw Libba. New recruit, Connor Buderick, absolutely standout for the Dogs. 27 off halfback, managed to sneak in a goal. They had a lot of injury doubts coming into the game with Bailey Dale and Sam Darcy. So it was good to see both of them still play. Darcy had 2 goals, 10 disposals. And then it's just from then on, like, the Dogs list, they've got a lot of fight. And, English with the new ruck rule really settled in well. 37 hitouts, kicked a couple goals. So it's going to be really interesting to see where the Dogs go from here. Um, build off that momentum of that win. They were really, obviously, very excited that they won. Celebrated quite hard after the final siren, but it's a different side this year for Luke Beveridge. I kept saying it in the preseason. Something just felt a bit different about this team. So for them to do that, it was just an outstanding performance. And for Brisbane, you've got a lot of drama coming out of this game. 3 players with suspension and Hugh McCluggage with an injury. So you've got to go now and face Sydney without Harris Andrews, without Hugh McCluggage, potentially no Darcy Gardner as well, and no Zach Bailey. So, it could be a pretty bad start for the reigning premiers, potentially 0-2. Obviously, not much of concern with their team. They did that the other year and won the premiership, so you don't want to count out too much. But our final game of the round was St Kilda versus Collingwood. And this game, for the most part, was actually really fun. The inaccuracy kind of killed it, but I think both teams actually are going to be somewhat competitive. St Kilda looked better, but not quite there. When the game kind of got heavy in the fourth quarter, they looked a bit hesitant to move the footy, whereas like in the first half, they were kind of reckless and I think a bit too excited. And I think the composure will settle in once the season gets going and the new recruits look good. Like, De Koning was a great pickup, as obviously everyone knows, one of the most touted rucks. Sinclair was phenomenal, 35 off half-back. Marcus Winhager continuing that great form that he built last year. Sam Flanders on club debut had 28 disposals. And it's just from then on, like, their young guys really stood up. Darcy Wilson having 20-odd disposals. We got to see a better look at Philippou, Hugo Garcia, Max Hall. Max Hall's really put on a lot of muscle. He's trimmed down as well. So, like, he's looking like a much more fitter footballer, and the results are showing on field. And yeah, like, the Saints have a decent list. and I really think that they can. I don't know if they're a top four team, but I really think they can challenge some of the best teams. And for Collingwood just do what Collingwood does. Hey, like no Darcy Moore, no Jeremy Howe, and they still find a way. And that's what Craig McRae does. You know, he's a good coach, and he finds a way to get his side the win. So for Collingwood, you'll absolutely take this. You know, you're kind of written off from the get go, and you just build from this. Um, so for the Pies, you know, you look on to the Crows next week. Obviously a home game, but still a dangerous team that can play good anywhere. So that's going to be another blockbuster. And for the Saints, you've got the D's. So a must win for the Saints if they want to challenge the finals this year. So yeah, no, two good teams, a very good opening round. Excited to have footy back. And yeah, that's it for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm trying to keep it a bit short, that way it doesn't drag on. But make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm gonna be trying to post as many vids as I can throughout the week, with multiple things happening during the season. So I appreciate it. But yeah, thanks for all the support, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And have a good one. Thanks.